Now, I spoke earlier about, at the top of the program, about that top-level phone call, the two most powerful men in the world, with Joe Biden and Xi Jinping talking for 2 hours last night. With tensions over the Taiwan Strait so high and tensions between China and the West also sky high, it's a good thing, at least, that they're talking. But our own Prime Minister, former Prime Minister that is, Scott Morrison, remember him, he's brought into these strategic issues overnight as well with a speech in Japan. And China's not really going to like much of what he had to say. Scott Morrison spoke robustly, pretty consistent with his time as Prime Minister, talking up the AUKUS deal with the UK and US and the Quad that includes, of course, Australia, the US, India and Japan. Scott Morrison said, over the last decade, the People's Republic of China has increasingly attempted to reshape our region and the world in a way more conducive to autocracies than liberal democracies. As Prime Minister, he says, I referred to China with Russia as a new arc of autocracy of which the world must be wary. Ain't that the truth? He went on to warn that other nations and perhaps the Albanese government with these words by saying our region must not embrace the path of acquiescence in the face of coercion. So a strong push there back against China. Let me bring in Michael Shoebridge from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. First up, Michael, that speech from Scott Morrison, pretty consistent with what he was saying as Prime Minister, but it won't go down too well in Beijing, especially making it in Japan.
No, but he said similar things when he was the Prime Minister, and I think Beijing and the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, hearing these speeches from people in democracies tells them two things. One, it gives them the very clear message that Scott Morrison gave, that China's behaviour is causing China increasing problems in more of the world, as the rest of us notice. And two, in democracies, lots of people get a say and have a public position to speak from, including former prime ministers. That's really healthy when you look at Xi trying to stop someone like Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan. In democracies, people get to make more of their own choices.
Absolutely. You could not disagree with a word that Scott Morrison said. And the good news for Australia is the Albanese Labor government has basically footprinted that same position. It hasn't taken a backward step over China since being elected, and that's to its credit because it's a difficult situation.